share my screen and we'll get started. All right. Welcome to the land agent training for the Sol Systems platform with the Green IT application. Just a brief intro and overview. So Radian/Green IT is a web app that's delivered by Radian Generation, and it has been established as a system of truth for the Sol land management and landowner payments system. Um, the functions that we'll be reviewing today include the user interface, navigation, land control, payments, and milestones. So Radian Generation is an independent service provider focused exclusively on the clean energy industry, and we help owners, operators, and developers with a wide range of services including software and automation, asset management, regulatory compliance, and cybersecurity. Radian Green IT contracted with Sol in 2022 and is now delivering the production system and providing training on the initial deliverables. Today, we'll be focusing on a intro training or 101 training for land control and landowner payments. And in this session, we'll review core data, features, and responsibilities. So some of the basics, the Sol Systems platform with Green IT is hosted on Amazon Web Services. It's a web app, and you can access it using a standard browser such as Firefox or Chrome. And the Green IT platform is built upon a role-based workspace. So each user is assigned a user role, and each role is assigned specific permissions, enabling read and write access across the software. So the user interface, when you log in, you should, have you both been able to log in? Have you received credentials and been able to successfully log in?
I have been. I'm not sure if Nate has had the chance.
I have not logged in yet. No.
Okay. Did you receive user credentials?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Yeah, feel free to log in whenever you get a chance. And I'll be showing you around if you want to follow along as I go through the training. That might be a good idea, but it's up to you. And okay, so when you first log in, you're going to land on this interface, which is the global map. And you'll notice in the top right, you'll see your username. You can click on your name there to change your password. There's also a handshake icon. This is for My Compliance. So if there are any compliance items that are assigned to your user, you can get an overview of that in the My Compliance interface. And there's also a logout button. All right, so throughout the application, there's going to be the main navigation is going to be available in the top left. So there's the portfolio nav. This is how you can access any of the projects that are in the system. And then there's also features menu. The tools that are available within the features menu, these are going to apply, they're like global tools or functionality. So they'll apply across all of the projects that are available in the system, whereas in the portfolio navigation, you'll be able to access a particular project. Uh, there's on the global map here, there's a couple different views. So there's the map view where projects are gonna show up as pins on the map, and you can click them to pull up information about the project and then go into any of those particular projects. There's also a grid view, and you can filter by project status. So right now we're looking at all resources in operations, construction, or development phases. And we're on the map view. If we flip over to the grid view, this will be a table with all of the projects, and we can see some of the basic project vitals that are available in this table. And we could search if there's a particular project that you're looking for. We can find that here, and then we can also navigate into the projects by selecting the project name here. Okay. Uh, so let's go into a project. Is there any project in particular that either of you would want to look at, or should we just pick something from the list here?
Yeah, I guess you can choose like Ashtabula or one
Okay.
of those other projects.
Yep. Okay. So we go into Ashtabula. Uh, and so this is the project interface, and this interface is going to be consistent across all of the projects in the portfolio. And so every project will have this layout. At the top above the project name, you'll notice different categories that are available. So these are categories that have been specified by Sol System for each project. So development, interconnect, land, etc. And every category is going to have certain tabs that are available. And so the tabs or tools are going to be available below the project name. And so you can flip between the categories, just select a different category, and you'll notice that the certain tabs become available. So in particularly with land, there are a robust set of additional tools and features that are available for land. So we're going to see additional tabs that are available in land. But typically, each category is going to have vitals, which are project vitals, and then compliance. So compliance is going to be is a very important feature within the application, although as as land agents or land users, you will be focusing on the land category here. So, but just to explain how this interface works. So if we're looking at offtake, we could look at compliance, and then so there's no offtake compliance for this project, but this is where we would see that. And so I'll just go back to project overview. By default, you probably will land in the project overview category when you first go into a project. And so these are some of the project vitals. And we can see where the project's located, how big it is, what status it's at, and then compliance. So when we're looking at project overview and we're looking at compliance, we're going to see compliance from all of the different categories in the overview. And at a glance, I'm seeing some land data here. So we could see this same land data. We can see that here, category is land for all of these compliance items. So we can take a closer look at this data by going to the land category and then looking at compliance. And so we're going to see the same compliance items from project overview, but we're focusing on just on land right now. Okay, so let's dive into land. And as I go along, please, if you have any questions, feel free to just to interrupt. Um, okay, so with land, there are three fundamental pieces of data that comprise land. And that's going to be the first one is going to be the land parcel, obviously. So land is referring to a defined uh, area, and that is represented by the parcel. And so I'm going to move over to APN master list. And so this is the uh, master list of parcels that are within this project. And so just to reiterate, every project is going to have these categories. You can go into land and you can go to APN master list and see all of the land that is associated to a particular project. From the APN master list, you can see how the acreage and the status, and then some of the other data points for each parcel. Within Green IT, there are many tables with data, and most tables you'll be able to filter. And so you could filter, for example, filter by parcel status. There's also a search bar is going to be available in the top right. And then most tables, you'll be able to export the table. So this would export, there's only one parcel here, but if there were many parcels and we had filtered by a particular parcel status, then we could export that report, and that's going to dump the data to an Excel file. Um, Okay, so that's the first piece of data for land is going to be the land parcel. The next piece will be the landowner. So I'm going to move over to the contact list tab here, and then we can see who the landowners are that are in this project. And we see Eric Williams here. And then we can also, the contact list is going to provide some more information here. So there's a landowner entity. This particular landowner has an agreement. We can see what status that's at. We can see which parcel is in that agreement, the parcel status, and then we can also see the contact information for this landowner. Okay. So just from this contact list here, I can select, if I scroll over to the right, there's this actions column, and there's a notepad and pen here. I can select that, and this is going to open up this uh, contact profile for this landowner here. And so I just want to show you that real quick. Just click here in actions. Okay, so this is the contact profile for the landowner. We can see that Eric Williams is contact type landowner, and they are associated with the project Ashtabula. Um, on the right-hand side here, we can see that this is an individual as opposed to an organization. The individual has first and last names. We can capture various other data points related to this landowner, such as phone number and email. And they're going to have an address, a physical address, and a remittance address. Any of this data, if something needs to be updated or changed, this is where you would apply those changes. So you could add some data, change the name, or add a phone number, and then put in uh, what it is, and then you could just submit here at the bottom, the submit button to apply those changes. So I don't actually want to do that. I'm just gonna back out of this. I'll go back, and we'll go back to the contact list for Ashtabula. All right. um, I'll also point out just before we move on from the landowners or contacts. So from the features menu, you'll notice there's a contacts option, contact list here. I'm going to open that in a new tab just to show you. So since this is from the features menu and we're looking at contact list, this contact list here will represents all of the contacts that are available in the system across the entire portfolio. And so um, every um, every stakeholder is going to be represented within the system as a contact, and they'll be available on the contacts list. So it's like a Rolodex for the system. You can see that internal users are also contacts within the system. So on the global contact list, this is going to be any contact in here, whether they're a landowner or an internal user. Um, and you can also see which projects they're associated to. So uh, if let's say a landowner calls and they're asking about something you don't know necessarily what project they're associated with, you could come into the global contact list and search for who is our contact here? Eric Williams. Eric Williams. I spell his name wrong. It's only got one L. Okay, so here's Eric Williams, and we can find his contact profile here, and we can see that he's associated with Ashtabula. Okay, so that's the global contact list. Let's go back to the project, and we're reviewing land. So we covered land parcels and land contacts. Uh, another piece of the land data here that's sort of fundamental to the system is going to be a land entity. And so I'll go to the land entities tab here within the project and the land category, land entities. And um, so a land entity within the Green IT system represents it's a way of organizing land data. So and so this land entity concept is going to bring together, organize a landowner or landowners, parcels of land and agreements. So all of those components or pieces of data are going to be organized within a land entity. And so this is where we have visibility on the land entities within a project. The land entity, the name of the entity is typically going to follow standard format, which would be for an individual would be last name, comma, first. Organizations can be entities or can have entities within the system. Uh, so this land entity is combining the landowner and the land, and then once a landowner and land are set up in the system, they can be associated to an agreement. And so in this instance, we see that Williams, comma, Eric is associated to this parcel of land. Here's the acreage. And then we can see that there's an option to lease agreement that's currently at status executed. Uh, with I really like the land entities interface for finding land data within a project. In this instance, there's just one landowner and one parcel, but if there were a lot of landowners and a lot of parcels, and you didn't know necessarily what you were looking for, you can come to land entities and you can search just for an entity name or even a parcel number, and you this provides a great overview of what is happening with the land. Uh, so let's see. All right, let's go into an entity, and I'll show you a little bit more about this concept of a land entity. So the first tab, we're still in Ashtabula. We went into the Williams, Eric entity, and now we have another set of tabs that are available within the entity view. The first tab is the landowners tab. This is where the landowners are configured within an entity. So uh, a let's see. And so we have one landowner, and they're defined as 100% owner, and they're receiving 100% of the payments. Uh, just want to move over for a second to the APN master list for the entity. So again, this is another APN master list table with the land parcels, but we're focused on this particular entity. So an entity is going to have land, and then there's going to be a landowner configuration on that land, and that configuration is defined at the entity level. So one entity can contain many landowners. It could also contain many parcels of land, but the ownership configuration is unique per entity. So um, if, for example, Eric Williams owned other parcels of land and maybe owned them with other landowners, that would require another entity. So Eric Williams owns this parcel, but maybe Eric Williams is also 50% landowner with another parcel of land. Well, since that would be a distinct landowner configuration, that would require a distinct entity within the system. Okay. The other tab that's available here at the entity view is the entity agreement tab. And there's two tables that are available here, entity agreement table and then an agreement tracker. These two tables are showing, they're representing the same data, but they're providing visibility or access to different aspects of that data. So if there's an agreement in the entity, it's going to show up in the entity agreement table, and it's also going to show up in the agreement tracker. The um, the agreement tracker, these agreement trackers are available at the entity level, they're available at the project level, and they're also available at the global level. When interacting and on the agreement tracker, this is where you can interact with an agreement request, or you can change its status. So if there's this is an option to lease, let's say decide that you want to move forward with signing a lease with this landowner. That's going to occur on one of the agreement trackers, so either at the entity, project, or global levels. And that would be achieved with the request for agreement button here. Let's see. Okay, so we'll have a follow-up session on the agreement workflow, but just to introduce the basic concept of the land control workflow. Um, the workflow is designed to represent the steps that are required to request an agreement and then move that agreement to get it to be executed. And so there are steps in the system that represent the steps that occur in real life that for to request the agreement and then to eventually execute it. So requesting an agreement in the system is just that. It's submitting the request internally within Soul Systems, saying, letting the team know, hey, I'm interested in a particular agreement for a parcel that is represented in a land entity. And so I'll just show this briefly. That would, from request for agreement, you could select a lease agreement, and it's going to be on this parcel. And then, so this is the form for submitting this request. Any notes about it, anything in particular to note about the lease agreement, maybe some of the payment terms. The landowner agreed on $5 an acre or $10 an acre, or whatever it was. You know, is it a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease? Um, and then once this request is submitted, it will show up in the agreement tracker, and there are different statuses within the workflow. So um, is it's basically who the different team members are that are going to be involved in making the agreement available, sending it out to the landowner. Once the agreement comes back in, um, getting it signed by getting it countersigned and executed, or along the way, maybe there's a modification that's required. It's going to go back. There's going to be an update, negotiations on the payment terms. So the land control workflow within Green IT is going to track all of those agreements from the point of being requested to being executed. Once an agreement is executed, that's obviously a significant event, and um, the certain restrictions or certain actions occur within the system upon execution of an agreement. So, for example, the area within the parcel is going to become locked. So, if we're looking at the APN master list, I can't just go in here and change the acreage of this parcel because it's uh, the parcel is signed, and so this signed status for the parcel is determined by the agreement workflow. So this agreement is executed, it contains this parcel. That means that I can't just go in and change the status of the parcel, or I can't change the area of the parcel because it's already in a signed agreement. On execution of an agreement within the system, there will also be payments that are produced. So here's a compliance tab specific to this entity. This is showing the payments that are due based off of this agreement. So the agreement within the system has payment terms. There's the agreement has a duration, it has an effective date. All of those variables are used to calculate and schedule payments. The payments that are produced are going to can be based off of the acreage of the parcel. They'll be based off of the payment terms that were seated in the system, uh, obviously based off of the agreement. And the payments are going to be generated based off of the landowner configuration. So that's why a parcel, or there can only be an entity has a unique payment landowner configuration and payment configuration. So you can't have two different payment configurations within the same entity. because any agreement that's executed within this entity is going to produce payments that are going to go to the payees that are determined by the landowner payment percentages on the landowner tab here. So since Eric Williams is 100% owner and 100% payment recipient, Eric is receiving 100% of the payments that are produced from this executed agreement that's in this entity. All right, so let's see, moving along. All right, let me double check something. Okay. So I want to demonstrate a little bit more about the workflow. And do this in, we've got a sample project open. No, I have a test project here. Let's use this test project. I know that's, this is just demo data in here. So, okay, so I just navigated to this test project. I found it here in the portfolio navigation menu, and I navigated to the land category. I'm looking at land entities. I already have a test entity in here, but let's just add a new one so you can observe the process from the top. Uh, if I wanted to seed some new landowner data in this project, I can do this on the front end, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. I'll also point out that most of the data that's already been seeded in the system or was imported into the system. So we have some import templates that are available for doing like a bulk seeding of data. So if there was a new project that came on and there were 50 landowners, or we could do a bulk import of the contact entity and land data just with using a template for that. But we can also, if you're just adding one new landowner or one new parcel, you can just do that on the front end. So I'll show you how to do that now. In land entities, I select manage entities, and I have the ability to add a new entity, or I could also change the name of an entity here. So let's put today's date, and I select add. Okay, so just added a new entity here. Let's say I wanted to change the name of it. I can just click into the name, update the name, and then click out, and it'll automatically update the name of the entity. So this is a light box in Green IT. There's a lot of interfaces with light boxes. To get out of a light box, I can just select the gray area outside of the light box to close it. Okay, so we added a new entity, but there's nothing in it yet. So let's go into this entity and let's see if we can add land. Yes. So I'll just sorry, I'm moving a little quickly here. So we're in this we're in our test project. We're in this new entity that we just created, and we want to add some land. So we go to APN master list entity, and I select the add land button here. And we'll just put in some data here. Just say it's going to be 1 acre. All right. Here's our parcel that we just added. And by default, it's going to start at status targeted. Don't have anything in the entity agreement tab yet. And on landowners, to update the landowner configuration, you go to edit view here. And we can add landowners to this entity. So by default, since we're working in the Green IT Test 0213 project, that is selected here, and these are the contacts that are available in this project. Let's say, for example, we're looking to add somebody to this entity, and we just don't see them here. They're not available in this project yet. So we could add a new contact. Select the add contact button. And we're back on the contact profile, except we're adding a new contact here. So I'm going to say this is an individual, and we'll say let's give him not very interesting first and last name. And our landowner is going to need a phone number. This for landowners and entities, there's a validation on whether the landowner has been configured correctly before you can request an agreement. And one of those validations is that the landowner's profile is a complete profile. And that includes having a phone number to be able to get in touch with them. Okay, so I'll give this landowner an address. Kind of filled out just the minimum requirements on this contact profile. Obviously, I could fill out more here as needed, and I'll select submit. Okay, so now when we go back into edit view, the new landowner is available here to be added to the entity. So select them, select the add button, and I've just put this landowner, just added this landowner to this entity. I'm also going to need to define some information about this landowner with respect to the entity. So they'll need a title of representation. We'll say they're going to be an individual. Individuals need to have their marital status defined. So even if there's just one, we need to say that they're single. If there were more folks in here, you could set up spousal relationships or entity relationships. You can have a trust and the trustees. And we'll just put in, with one landowner, we'll put in 100% for ownership and payment percentages. Okay. Now our landowner's in here and they're looking good. They've got a complete address. We have their phone number, their title of rep is defined. We put in their ownership and payment percentages. They're looking good. So this entity, I'll just go back to the project level for just a second. And so now we see that our entity has a parcel of land in it, but it doesn't have an agreement yet. So we'll go back to the entity, get the entity agreement tab now. And this is where we'll do a request for agreement. As I mentioned earlier, this agreement tracker is available at the entity level, project level, and global level. So just to show you that real quick, we'll go back to the project, and another one of the tabs that's available here is the agreement tracker. So this is for the project. So we can see that there's already an executed this is an executed amendment that superseded a prior original agreement that's in this other entity. And we also have the ability, we could request an agreement here at the project level. When we do this, then we're going to need to select which entity we want to work in. So could select the test demo, and let's say we're going to do an option to lease, and the parcel's selected by default. We can see what the acreage is. It's just one. Notice are typically going to be for a notice would go to the landowner about this agreement. So notes, this is when submitting this request, what you want to do is capture any of the important details about this request. Maybe it's just a standard option to lease request, and there's a boilerplate template for the project that says all option to lease agreements in this particular project are going to use this template, and it's all set. You could make a note of that here, or maybe there's something in particular that's special about this request. Any of those notes, you're going to want to capture them here in the notes field, and this field is expandable, so you can. The idea is to capture anything that's going to be useful or important for any of the other team members who are going to be reviewing and processing this request. This is the field to capture those notes. Requested by, who's requesting it, the request date, source docs. This is, I don't think this has been connected yet, but this will connect to your external file system, and you'll be able to point or create references to files that are available on your external file system. So this would be W-9s or deeds for the land, anything, any of the source documents that are required for submitting this request. Those files, they're scanned documents or PDFs, so they're going to live on your external file system. Green IT is just going to point to those files to create a quick reference for anyone coming to review this request. They can quickly see what the source documents are and then open them, which would just access those files from your external file system. But Green IT will just be pointing to those files. GIS confirmation is just going to be 100% integrity. This would be if there's going to be GIS review, which is not the case for Sol systems. Okay, so and then at the bottom, this is just a summary of the landowner information from the entity level here. So we can see here's our test landowner, and then the percentages that we put captured here. Sometimes there can be a lot of information that goes into an agreement request, and when you sit down to prepare the request, you start filling out the form, and then you realize that maybe you're missing a source document or some piece of information that's not quite ready yet. You have the ability to save the request for later. So before you submit the request, you can save this form. And so I'll show you what that looks like now. Click on Save for Later. Okay. And so now if I click out of here, and let's go into our entity. So let's say something came up, and just going to show you what this validation looks like. So just for a second, I'm going to get rid of this landowner's phone number. So let's say we didn't know what their phone number was at the time. Capture their remittance address, put that in. Okay, so reload entity. So this landowner's now they're missing their phone number. So I just want to show you what this looks like for validating landowners. So in entity agreement, now I can open up request for agreement. I'm on an agreement tracker. I look at request for agreement. I already started filling out this form. I now have the option to open up the form that I was filling out. So do that here, and I'm going to apply saved form data. And so the information that I captured here has just been applied. You'll notice in the entity level, I don't have to select which entity I'm working in because I'm already in the entity. It's I find it's easiest when working with the agreement request to come into the entity level and work from there. Depends on the use case. If you don't know which project you're working in or you're trying to find an agreement, maybe you only know the landowner's name, you might want to look it up on the global tracker, and then you can figure out which project and entity it pertains to. But once you know that information, I find it's easiest to work at the granular entity level. Okay, so we applied the saved form data here. Maybe I came up with some other notes. Special payment terms, X X dollars an acre or something. Okay. So now I think I'm ready to submit this request, and I click on submit, but I just got a little bit of validation error message at the bottom here saying the phone field is missing for this landowner. So I'll save my form again because I just added some new information here. I'll click out of here. And so I need to fix my landowner here. Doesn't have the right phone, doesn't have a phone number captured. So I can open that in another tab, and now I'll put in phone number, submit. Okay, if I go back to the entity, and if I refresh here, now I see I have a phone number. And open up the request for agreement form. I have my saved form data, and I apply it. And so now I click submit, and the request is submitted. So the first status that an agreement goes to when it's requested is status agreement requested. The next, and the status owners for agreement requested are sole admin and land developer. So that means that it's now the land developer's responsibility to review this request. And we haven't set them up yet, but there is an alert system that would send an email alert to the land developers with a URL to this page that we're looking at on screen right now. And the alert's going to say, be advised, there's a new agreement request that's at status agreement requested. Action is required on your part regarding this request. And so the land developer, if they get an email alert, they come in here and they take a look. The first thing that they're going to do is they can click on this eyeball in the actions column for view request, and they're going to pull up the form that was submitted. So they can immediately see what's happening with this request, and they can see what the notes are. And also access source documents that are attached to the request. Once they review this information, they're going to decide whether this request can move forward in the workflow. And I'm going to, right now, I'm in as a user who is a land agent role. I'm just going to get out of, I'm going to go back to being an admin for a second, because you'll notice that when I was a land agent, I was able to submit this request, but once the request is submitted, I can't actually do anything with it because it's now the responsibility of the land developer to review the request. But I've just changed my access to be an admin user. So now green IT. Okay. Status owners of a request are going to see this update button on the agreement tracker. And so this is where if you are the status owner, you can interact with this request. You can change the status of the request. So the options available for the land developer at this point are going to be either to make this agreement available or to return the agreement request, send it back to the land agent. If we were to send it back to the land agent, we're going to capture a reason, like something's missing or is incomplete or whatever it is, need to provide a rationale of why it's being sent back. This would be, missing XYZ. We'll show you what that would look like. So this gets sent back to the land agent. The land agent can come in and they can look at the updates log. I just got that from the eyeball here and went to the updates tab, and so we can see what's been happening. And so this got sent back to land agent. Well, it's missing XYZ, so the land agent could help provide that information and then make the request go back to agreement requested. Okay, so land developers reviewing this request, they decide that it's good and they're going to make it available. When making a request available, this is an important step in the workflow. The land developer is going to apply a terms template to the request. The terms template contains the payment terms, the agreement duration, all of the variables that are going to define the agreement within the system. So any payments and how long the scheduling of those payments. That information is captured in an agreement template, and agreement templates based off of the agreement type and their project are going to be available for the agreement requests. I've already got a template seeded in the system for option to lease agreements within this test project. So I'm going to use that terms template. So this could be a boilerplate template, or maybe it's going to be a specific template just for this request. And I'll click submit. Okay, the agreement is now status available, and the status owner is back to the land agent. So the land agent, what they're going to do at this point is send it out to the landowner, and that would be the out to landowner option. Since the terms template was applied to this agreement, those terms are now, they've been seeded in this agreement. Running out of time, we can get into that a little bit more in a follow-up session, but we could view or confirm that within view edit for the terms of the agreement. But let's continue with the workflow here. So this agreement's going to go, it's going to be sent out to the landowner. The landowner reviews it. Presumably they're going to sign it and send it back. And so now the status owner is land developer associate. That user received an email alert saying, "Hey, something's been sent out to the landowner. Keep an eye on for when this is going to come back in." Comes back in from the landowner for review. The land developer associate approves it. It's going to go to the legal team and the land execution team. So legal can approve it. And at this point, it's ready to be executed. When executed an agreement, the effective date of the agreement needs to be captured. So when was this agreement signed? The boilerplate terms or the agreement, the payment template that's applied to it isn't going to know when the agreement is going to be signed. So that's captured. All of the payment terms and duration have already been seeded, but the effective date of the agreement can't be known until the agreement is actually signed, and that happens at execution. So we capture that date here and submit. And so now this agreement has achieved status executed. Our land parcel is status signed, and now we have payments that have been generated based off of the payment terms template that was applied to this request. So there's a 30, I think it was just in there for maybe $1 or $12 an acre. There's a 30-day offset on the first payment, and then there's annual payments occurring on the anniversary of the effective date going forward for 5 years for the development period. Okay, we're bumping up to the end of the hour. I think I've covered pretty much everything. There's a couple other tools related to um, like if some requests are getting stuck at a status, there's a stale tracker to see where requests aren't moving through the workflow. There's an expiration tracker to see which agreements are going to be expiring in the near future, and maybe they need to be extended. But we can go into some more details on the next session. If there's any questions, let me know. I'll also point out that there's some ways to access support available. So you can create a request from the support menu. You can open up a new support request and fill out this form, and the support team will get pinged. There's you could send us an email, and that's going to be the same email that from where you received your credentials, but I'll put that into the chat just so you have that. Emails are a great way for getting in touch if you have any questions or something forget how something works or something looks off, please feel free to reach out. There's our email, and then we also have give us a call as well, and I'll get that number for you into the chat as well. It's 1-800-275-5870. So thank you very much for your time today. Any last questions before we wrap up?
None from me, but thank you for walking us through this.
Sure thing. appears that we'll be having another session to go a little bit more in depth with the workflow. So look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Clay.
Alrighty. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, everyone else.